Okay, great. So happy today to be joined by my longtime friend in the boxing world, Norm Frauenheim. My mentor, actually, who I grew up reading when I grew growing up in Phoenix and wrote for the Arizona Republic.
Be careful. Be careful of those mentors you pick, Lance.
Well, it's been such a privilege to work with you throughout these years, Norm. And I know, like, you really kind of spoke for, I think, so many of the boxing fans, which, we as journalists try to do in some occasions. When you talked about the aggravation and the missed opportunity of not being able to get the Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Crawford welterweight unification fight done for in your column for 15rounds.com this week. Tell the readers what your key points of that were. I mean, obviously, the failing of this is disappointing. What are your immediate takeaways of why this is not happening now?
Well, to begin with, I think it's more than disappointing. Thank you for the compliments on the column. I kind of agonized going through it because I'm extremely disappointed. I am a journalist, yes, uh, but as you know, I'm semi-retired, and the one thing that I continue to do is boxing. And to me, this fight, it was pivotal to get it done, to restore some of the integrity to boxing. You and I know, and everybody who's a good boxing fan know, these were two of the best two of the best fighters in the world. There's no excuse in my mind that they're not fighting. And I frankly, I'm sick of it. And I did say that I'm tired of dealing with it. But at the same time, and the reason I agonized about it is in saying I'm sick of it, I'm that much closer to doing what other fans will do, which is to walk away. This has been going on for how long now? You know what? I mean, I'll put it to you this way, Lance. Over the last 7 months, 8 months, this fight has been on and off more often than Tyson Fury has come in and out of retirement.
Yeah, exactly. I
You
can
need not.
remember. Look, when we were at Canelo Golovkin 3, we were thinking that it
We
was
were
going to
trying to
happen,
figure out.
right?
Yeah, so I thought I saw a light in the tunnel, and then it went on and on. And I'm a little bit. I love Terrence Crawford's. To me, he's a guy that could have fought with the guys back in the '80s, but he doesn't have a sense of PR, and we all know that because of what happened with Bob Arum at Dodd-Frank. And I think when you become that great of a fighter, there's a certain responsibility there, and he turns his back on that. Well, one of the interesting things to me in today's game, in back in the '80s, his kind of personality sold. He was defiance. There was some charisma in that, but it doesn't work today because there aren't as many fighters as him. And I just wish that he would take on some of that responsibility. But I mean, we're getting a little late in the game with him. He's 35 years old. You know,
Yeah.
so
And now he's talking about fighting a guy who I think is best known for being Sugar Shane Mosley's last opponent, David
right.
Avanesi. And you may have covered that fight because it was in Glendale, if
No,
I'm not.
no, I didn't. I can't. I was out of town. I don't know if there was another fight that night. I think there was another fight that night.
Okay. Yeah,
Were you
but I
there?
mean, look, this is a astronomical shift in talent away from Errol Spence Jr. to
Yeah.
David Avanesi. Come
But
on.
the problem is, and I chuckled. Sadly, I chuckled when Spence was quoted as saying, "Well, I don't know who he is," and I thought to myself, "Well, Earl, people who have left the sport, and I think they've been leaving ever since Pacquiao Floyd in 2015 because that was a disappointment. There was a chance to capture that cross. Many of them left then. The people who left then, they don't know who Terrence Crawford and Earl Spence are, and that to me is a crisis in this business. But they do know who Jake Paul is. But Jake knows how to promote.
Yeah.
I'm going to be at that fight. I live in Arizona, so I live in Flagstaff now, but I'm headed down the road tonight because all the pre-media, pre-fight stuff starts Wednesday. So
Yeah, no, I want to talk to you about that as well. I mean, as we're looking at Spence-Crawford not happening, I just got off a call with Bob Arum, who
Mm-hmm.
said, "Look, I don't want to." Oh, well, he didn't really say this, so maybe he was kind of tooting his own horn. But he said the failure of Terrence Crawford in not having a promoter really hurt the ability of this fight to get done because it's, acrimonious as Arum's relationship with Al Heyman has been over the years. They did sit down finally get the Mayweather Pacquiao fight done. They
Yes, they
did
did.
sit down and get the Fury Wilder fights done. And he says at the end of the day, he believes that they could have gotten Crawford Spence done as well, but they needed to have someone in the middle there
Yeah.
rather than just the fighter to negotiate.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I also, my sense of it is that the fight, and you wrote this story when you were with the Los Angeles Times, that the Pacquiao Floyd fight happened because of Les Moonves.
Yeah.
I mean, you need a big hitter to step in and say, we're going to do this fight. I'm tired of hearing this baloney. Let's put it together.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where that person is. Do you?
He's not around. I mean, Steven Espinoza at Showtime, we know that he would love the fight,
Sure.
but there was talk that maybe even the fight was going to be headed to Fox. So
Right.
there isn't that person is nowhere to be found. Let me ask you a couple questions, Norm. And again, I know this is more just observation rather than
Sure.
insightful reporting where we're talking to these people because we're not talking to Al Heyman. Do you think Al Heyman? I find this hard to believe. I do, because I know that Heyman cares about his guys making money. Do you
Yeah.
think that Heyman was out working to protect Errol Spence in never allowing, never finding the right deal for Crawford here?
I have no idea. I'm with you. I'm skeptical of that. I think that in his heart of hearts, he's seen a lot of fighters. He has to know how great a fighter Crawford is. And who knows, maybe as a result of putting it together, he might have been able to sign him to a promotional deal. I
Yeah.
don't know, my sense of it is that Terrence and the people who are with him now had been working on this for a long time, and he wants to be independent. I'm a little bit fearful of, there were reports that he'd been contacted, and even photos, I think, of him and Daniel Kinahan. There's those rumblings, but I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to that. Now, you see on social media that nobody knows what BLK Prime is, and it is an offbeat. I guess they're getting new into it, but they do have a parent company called Endavo, which is located in Atlanta.
Okay.
So, if they're getting into the boxing business, not knowing what they're doing, they're in big trouble.
Exactly. And when you hear about Terrence Crawford saying that he's going to be making a record purse in the
Listen,
8-figure range, it's like, do you know the business at all? I mean,
yeah,
how can these numbers add up? If we couldn't get there with Sean Porter, if we couldn't
yeah,
get there with any of these
yeah.
other fights that under the top
To
ranked
me,
banners.
you, me, and Dan Raphael, Sean, uh, Ellie, we were the only people at Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford. And that shocked me then. And I should have seen that as a red flag. And I didn't, but I looked around and I said, my God, this fight, 10 years ago would have sold itself. All of the major media would have been there, but they weren't. And that tells you how low a profile Terrence and Spence they really have. And that's really sad to me. That's sad for the game.
I've always believed, Norm, that when it came to Crawford and Spence, that the biggest fight would be the rematch of the two. It had to be a 2-fight deal because everyone was gonna see how great this fight was going to be, and then everyone would know, like, I've got to watch the rematch.
Well,
It's
maybe
it's
I mean,
unfortunate.
maybe the people that he signed with uh, to fight David, and I'm embarrassed I can't pronounce his last name, but that's how I
Evanesian, yeah.
know him. Yeah, maybe it's an investment in what you are just saying right now. Maybe they have that money. Maybe there's there's a there's a sugar daddy somewhere in the background. I hope so.
Yeah, exactly.
So long as it isn't Daniel Kinahan.
Exactly. Yes. Now, we were told, I was told that uh, pretty quickly along the line, it was able to be rooted out that he would not have any impact, Kinahan I'm speaking of, and that they were able to, proceed toward what they wanted to try to do. But, unfortunately, they were not able to come to terms. I guess before I get to the news of today, where do we go from here with these two guys? What do you think Spence does next with Crawford already having a fight scheduled?
Well, I mean, I saw where he was talking to that Standard Stotis, or that was a yeah.
Danny on this, yeah.
But the only one I'm interested in now is Boots Ennis. There's a door open here for Boots Ennis, right?
That's true.
It's wide open. So bring him in, and I think there's going to be some backlash among the fans who are left with Crawford and Spence. And Boots Ennis is going to, in my opinion, Boots Ennis will have a built-in fan base right off the bat because people are angry. Don't you agree?
He's a great talent. He's a supreme talent, but I think the obvious hint that would not happen is the fact that Terence Crawford, instead of picking Virgil Ortiz Jr., picked David Avanesian. And so like these guys are still looking to.
That's very telling, by the way.
It is, right? And they're looking to, keep the dialogue open. I know Terence has made reference to this, that he's going to win this fight and then kind of renew the discussion with Spence. Let's hope that it happens next year. I think that's the only thing that we can really do as outsiders, is just kind of hope that this is the fight that takes place.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know I quoted Dylan Hernandez's infamous column there, but it's hard to argue with him right now. I spoke to him before I wrote it.
Because you're right, and that for the people who don't know what Norm's referencing, Dylan Hernandez wrote that column that says boxing is dead, and when boxing misses the opportunity to make this fight, right, it's putting that gun up to the head. It is. Again, and it's playing with fate, because it's like, you build up to this moment. Everyone knows that this moment has arrived and it's there for the taking. And then you say, oh, we're going to go do something over here now. Well, it's like, well, look, Norm, we were talking about, we need a light at the end of the tunnel. And maybe one of those lights has come beaming through today with news from our friend Chris Mannix at Sports Illustrated, that there is a serious talk on the structure of a deal between Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. Look, that's going to be a great fight in the ring, and I think that's going to be a great social media fight, given the social media footprint of both of those fighters. Does that help save the day, given where we were with the collapse of Spence-Crawford?
It's a consolation prize, and I think they're smart to put it together because they know the appetite is there. So, come on, let's do it. And I don't know what I would like to see more of each fighter, because I don't know what to make of either of them at this point. But Ryan Garcia always surprises me as a fighter. He does the Jake Paul thing as well. So that's, he continues to prove himself as a fighter. Tank Davis, man, he's got problems. Gervonta, he has problems. I know he has to go back to court on that hit and run on Baltimore. So that puts, that leaves me concerned about it. But at this point, I'd love to see it, given what has just happened.
Who would you pick in that fight, Norm?
Gervonta.
Yeah, just because of the power.
But I have come to the conclusion that Ryan Garcia is more than capable of surprising me and a lot of other people. So.
He's got Joe Goosen in his corner. I think that was a brilliant move.
That's a good, that really is. So, if you had spoken to me about this a year ago, I would have said, Ryan Garcia's in trouble. But I think it's a legitimate fight.
You made reference to it. Jake Paul is doing the things that boxing fans want out of their fighters, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I'm going to ask. I can't wait to hear his answer. If there was a pay-per-view Earl Spence, Terrence Crawford, and Jake Paul versus just virtually anybody, who would win the pay-per-view number? I got a hunch Jake Paul would. So, I mean, I say that with regret, and I would go personally, of course, to the Crawford Spence fight. But
it's the ultimate dichotomy is Jake Paul and his grasp of the importance of social media and the importance of audience building versus the disrespect for that Terrence Crawford has. And look, I think both of us have spent significant time with Terrence Crawford, and he can be such an engaging, honest, refreshing personality. It's there for the taking. All he has to do is
he is genuine. He really is genuine. I grew to like him a great deal. I was in Omaha, when he knocked out Jose Benavidez, and that was a great fight, and it was a great night. And I thought, I really like this guy, but then he frustrates you with this, And I think I have empathy for Top Rank now, because I heard this from Top Rank for the longest time, that they were for years. You probably did too.
Yeah.
That they weren't getting along. It was too hard to work with Terrence Crawford. And now that has kind of spilled out in the open, and I think it may have. I'm not going to blame him, because $10 million is a lot of money. If it's guaranteed and upfront, okay, and he's 35 years old. This might be a factor. Too much of what he wanted might have been tied to pay-per-view, and then Heyman wasn't going to open his books for him, which is apparently what he wanted. But still, it's in terms of what he could have done for the business, it's a waste. It bothers me.
The unbelievable thing is, Norm, when you look at this year that has been in 2022, the biggest pay-per-view boxing event of the year could be Jake Paul versus Anderson Spider Silva.
Damn.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God, I have no words for that. But to say you're right.
Well, I'm sure that you will have some words for it, Norm. We'll be reading you at 15rounds.com and in the Ring magazine and everywhere else where you do your work. We really appreciate your time today. Enjoy yourself and drive safely to Phoenix, please.
I will. Take care.
Thank you, Norm. Appreciate you.
Okay. Bye.